anxious, shattered dreams. End of times ain't what it seems.
Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, July 29th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. Quite a bit to get to today for you. Wow. So Saudi Arabia has entered the war. China has entered the war. Things are expanding here rapidly. Trump belligerent as per usual. We're going to cover all of these ins and outs for you today on Iran War Day 151. We have a bunch of economic news, public health news. I'm not even going to go over it that much. It's just ridiculous. Fauci testifies, took the Fifth Amendment over 100 times. We'll cover a little bit of it. It's ridiculous. We have Epstein news. We have a bunch of technocracy news, scientific dictatorship news, geopolitical news, controlled demolition of Lebanon and Gaza continues. The genocide continues. All of that and much more on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. See a few people coming online here now. Shout out to Strong on the Rumble. Few people coming online on the YouTube. All right, let's get to this day in history. On this day in our history. On this day in our history of July 29th, we go back to the year 1279. Japan beheads emissaries. Five emissaries dispatched from Kublai Khan from the Mongol Yuan dynasty are beheaded in Japan on this day, 1279. Seems they didn't take too kindly to these foreigners visiting their island. On this day in 1566, Great Britain executes Agnes Waterhouse, the first British woman convicted of witchcraft in England. On this day, 1566. 1588, on this day, we saw the defeat of the Spanish Armada. The quote, invincible Spanish Armada is sighted approaching England, and several skirmishes follow, forcing the invading fleet to make a long and costly retreat around Scotland and Ireland. Spanish Armada defeated on this day. 1588. 1786. Shout out to Mac out there. I do believe you are in, I'm pretty sure Mac's in Pittsburgh, right, Mac? Anyhow, I saw this and I thought of Mac out there, regular listener. 1786 on this day, the Pittsburgh Gazette, the first newspaper west of the Alleghenies, is published. 1907. 1907 on this day, Sir Robert Baden-Powell forms the Boy Scouts in England. And then tragically enough, I don't know his background, but tragically enough, we know here in America, at least, it's been taken over in large part by PDFs, a very tragic destruction of a once honored institution, to say the least. On this day in 1914, we saw the first transcontinental phone link made between New York City and San Francisco. I'm sure they wiretapped that. And then that brings me to some words of wisdom from Fat Bob via messenger on Facebook, because apparently he's banned off of X. I know the feeling. It's not fun. But message via Fat Bob, quote of the day. Now, John Swinton, editor of the New York Times, at an annual dinner of the American Press Association in 1914, said, quoting him here now, per Fat Bob, "There is no such thing as an independent press in America." This is 1914. "Not a man among you dares to utter his honest opinion. We are the tools and the vassals of the rich behind the scenes. We are marionettes. These men pull the strings and we dance. Our time, our talents, our lives, and our capacities are all the property of these men. We are intellectual prostitutes." Words of wisdom there, quote via Fat Bob. Thank you very much for that. And then he had a little bit more in the message. I guess we'll read the rest. And then this is Fat Bob. He says, "We all must educate ourselves continually to the 2D media itself, where anything can happen. Now well into the 3D world, but for like Rothschild centuries here in America, patent pending." Bravo, Fat Bob. Words of wisdom there indeed. Continuing here, on this day in history, on this day in 1920, we saw the first successful transcontinental U.S. airmail flight from New York to San Francisco. Also on this day in 1920, we saw Pancho Villa surrender. Mexican revolutionary leader Pancho Villa surrenders to the interim Mexican government of Adolfo de la Huerta, ending his armed struggle in exchange for amnesty and a ranch in Cholula, Mexico. That's a pretty good exchange. The very next year, on this day in 1921, Adolf Hitler becomes the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. On this day in 1932, part of the Great Depression, we continue to report about this because it's extreme. It just shows you how criminal and tyrannical the U.S. federal government is. They don't give a damn about you, me, or cats or dogs, veterans, anybody. It's just a ruthless, evil, organized crime syndicate. On this day in 1932, Great Depression in Washington, D.C., U.S. troops dispersed the last of the bonus army of World War I veterans. The next year, on this day in 1933, we got some 33 columns in there. Police shootout with Bonnie Parker and Clyde Burrows gang. Bonnie and Clyde police shootout in Iowa leaves one member, Clyde's brother, Buck Burrow, dead and one captured. Bonnie and Clyde escape. On this day in 1944, Allied air forces bombed Germany for 6 hours. On this day in 1953, U.S. bomber shot down by Soviet air defenses over the Sea of Japan, north of Vladivostok. On this day in 1958, then U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower signs into law the National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958, establishing NASA, the never-ending black hole of fraud, money laundering, and lies. So we do appreciate those efforts by Eisenhower. 1967, on this day, we saw a fire aboard aircraft carrier USS Forrestal in the Gulf of Tonkin, killing 134 U.S. sailors. On this day in 1988, we saw the FDIC bail out First Republic Bank of Dallas with $4 billion. That's your free market capitalism right there for you. And on this day in Our civil liberties history, we go back to the year 2010, establishing a new normal. ACLU issues critique of the Obama administration. 18 months into President Barack Hussein Obama's administration, the ACLU issued a strong critique of its record on national security, civil liberties, and human rights. The ACLU argued that the Obama administration, even though he was half white, first president to come forward with that, I made that part up. Anyhow, ACLU argued that the Obama administration had embraced many of the assumptions and practices of the George W. Bush administration, and as a result, was continuing many of Bush's violations of civil liberties, including spying on Americans. But he was half white, so I mean, it's perfectly fine, right? All right, here's our segue to the news for you. Trump needs to be, and then now even Alex Jones is calling for it. A little late there, buddy. Alex Jones out there, but he's calling for Trump to be impeached via the 25th Amendment. It needs to happen. Here's Trump, report about what Trump's saying from the War Channel, Fox News.
Good morning. President Trump reacting to that Iranian attack on U.S. forces overnight in Jordan. President Trump tells Fox News about Iran, "We are going to beat the effing S out of them." He went on to say, "We'll be hitting them hard. They're going to get a beating."
We're going to beat the effing S out of them. Like, seriously. You really got them there, Trump. Here's Trump. This from yesterday when Shadow President Millet visited. Trump talking to Fox and Friends, where he says that Millet wants him to stay involved in the Iran campaign. Well, it's good of him to keep us involved in the Iran war.
There are reports now that Netanyahu is going to talk to you about ongoing excavation at Pickaxe Mountain, construction vehicles entering and exiting tunnels, paving new access roads. Satellite imagery and intel indicates that Iran is actively constructing and fortifying Pickaxe Mountain. How will we respond?
Well, I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. I mean, I don't necessarily. We have the finest, because of Space Force, we have the greatest cameras in the world focused on. We know exactly what's going on. But no, I heard Bibi announce that. I said, why didn't you just tell it to me? Why do you have to announce it to the world? I know exactly what's going on at Pickaxe. It's not a big place.
Because he's got you punked out like a little bitch, Trump. That's why. Nearly half of Americans want Netanyahu arrested on U.S. soil. Well, we missed the chance because that didn't happen. That's Haaretz, the antiseptic aardvark newspaper there. You can see right there. Very hateful coming out of Haaretz. And obviously that did not happen. Here's Millet going by Netanyahu. Put out this short clip. I think there's, it's only 11 seconds, so we won't get that much phlegm in the throat, I guess.
ראש הממשלה, איך אתה מסכם את הביקור עד עכשיו?
ביקור מצוין. אתם כל הזמן שומעים על גלי השנאה נגד ישראל בארצות הברית, אבל כנראה שלא מתארים לכם את...
I mean, come on, dude. So Millet said here, now let me translate you it in English, said, "My visit to the United States was excellent. You consistently hear about the waves of hatred against aardvark land in the United States, but you are probably not told about the waves of love and appreciation." I think we're told because we've been reporting you're paying $1 billion to run all of these Hasbro pro-genocide aardvark campaigns all over the internet. So we've heard about all the waves of love and appreciation. It's all fake. And yet, well, you do have the, let me take that back. You do have the evangelical Christian Zionists who are possessed by evil spirit. And so you do get a lot of waves of love and appreciation from those maniacs. But everybody else is like, nah, you guys are de facto, you're just garbage. Here it is. Millet meeting up with, what do you do with the drunken Hegseth there, very proudly, talking about killing more people, I'm sure. In an important meeting with U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Bibi posted. It's very heartwarming there. Yeah, I'm not even going to play it. The Bibi X account posted a mashup memorial blessing to Lindsey Graham. I just can't stomach it. So I'm not even going to play it, but they tell you who they are. Maybe we should listen. Upon finishing his meeting with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Netanyahu said in his language, he said, I've just finished a conversation here with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He called him Secretary of Defense. It's Secretary of War. He told me something interesting. He said to me, we look at the world and there are countries that have the will to fight alongside the United States, but they lack the capability. And there are countries that have the capability, but lack the will. He said, only in Aardvark land do we see both the will and the capability. Wow, so you found a great country of psychopaths, Aardvark land. Congratulations, what a find there. That's like one of these little claps. That's a very great intel coming out of the War Department via Millet. Senior Senate Democrats meet with Aardvarkland opposition leader Yair Lapid, who calls for expanding Aardvarkland to its biblical borders. That's the funniest, fakest thing ever, right? Lapid said he supports what is commonly described as the Greater Aardvarkland Project. There's no difference. They got the same left, right, red, blue BS there in Aardvarkland as we have in our American politics. There's no difference. It's the same corrupt government, no matter what puppet you put there. He went on to say anything that could give Aardvarks a large, broad, strong land and make Aardvarkland's borders as broad as possible, he said. He believes the state could ultimately stretch as far as Iraq. The meeting earlier today, led by these American traitors, senators, there you go. They're no difference. All these are Democrats. Trump probably called them all Palestinians like he does Chuck Schumer. They're all ultra-Zionist crazy people is who they are. You can see right here, Jackie Rosen, Tim Kaine, Michael Bennett, Richard Blumenthal, Maggie Hassan, Cory Booker, Brian, they're not all pictured here, Brian Schwartz, John Hickenlooper, and Catherine Cortez Mosto. So there you go. Literally no difference. Ultra-Zionist megalomaniacs, crazy people telling themselves they have some authority, telling us they have some authority over us as, quote, government. They don't. Okay, that's just a giant trick they're playing. Don't comply. Just simply say no and don't comply. So as China entered the war here now, according to Reuters, exclusive, Iran to get Chinese shoulder-launched missile systems in weeks. Iran is expected to receive within weeks a first shipment out of up to 400 Chinese-made shoulder-fired air defense missile launchers. 3 sources familiar with the deal told Reuters, and it rebuilds its defenses amid war with America. The purchase valued at $60 to $70 million is one of Tehran's largest known efforts to strengthen its short-range air defenses since the outbreak of its war with America and Aardvarkland, which exposed gaps in Iran's ability to protect military sites and strategic infrastructure. The contract covers the purchase of between 300 and 400 man-portable air defense systems, MANPADS, including Chinese-made QW-12 and FN-16 missiles, the sources said. The deal was signed with Zhongqing Ba Sheng International Investment, a Hong Kong-based company that the sources said was acting as an intermediary between the Iranian side and the Chinese supplier. So essentially here now, and Trump had promised us that he talked to Xi and said, and they promised that they wouldn't get involved in the war. Now China is entering the war, supplying weapons to Iran to shoot down our planes and drones there. The shoulder-fired missile systems are infrared-guided surface-to-air missile systems designed to engage low-flying aircraft, helicopters, and drones. Their mobility allows them to be deployed rapidly around military installations, energy infrastructure, and other sensitive sites. So they're going to have a bunch of Iranians running around with these shoulder-launched missile systems in a few weeks here now. That's going to make American aviation in Iranian airspace that much more difficult. And we'll get to now later in the show here, they've adjusted their ballistic missiles as well as this war progresses. We're going to get to that report a little bit later. So here it is. U.S. Central Command put out, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is involved in the war now. U.S. Saudi forces strike Iran-backed terrorist sites in Iraq. We're killing Iraqis again. That should make all the neocons happy, right? U.S. Central Command says U.S. Central Command and Saudi Arabian armed forces conducted precision strikes in Iraq last night, July 28th, against Iran-aligned terrorists that the IRGC directed to attack U.S. forces and Saudi energy infrastructure. U.S. and Saudi fighter aircraft struck multiple terrorist logistics and weapon sites across eastern Iraq in a strong response to over 30 IRGC directed aerial drone attacks in the last 72 hours. The unwarranted attacks against U.S. forces were not successful. From February through April 2026, there were more than 600 attempted attacks on U.S. citizens and facilities by Iran-aligned terrorist militias in Iraq. The IRGC and its terrorist proxies must cease these attacks to avoid further U.S. military response. Saudi Arabia enters the Iran war. The joint strikes with the United States against Tehran-backed paramilitary proxy groups marks Riyadh's first publicly declared participation in joint military operations alongside Washington since the Iran hostilities began. A little bit more details here. U.S. Saudi strikes across Iran kill at least 20 PMF fighters. Iraqi paramilitary force says Iraq's Popular Mobilization Force, PMF, said joint U.S.-Saudi airstrikes killed at least 20 of its fighters and wounded 32 others in attacks across 7 provinces in one of the sharpest escalations in the region in weeks. And we do love our U.S. Central Command fact checks as well here. There, we got another fact check. And I saw, who's it? Tassim News? One of these, I think it was Tassim News. That's like Iranian state TV got their account banned on the X. That was reported earlier today. But here's a fact check from U.S. Central Command. They say, claim after recently threatening and attempting to attack commercial vessels and innocent mariners transiting the Strait of Hormuz, IRGC continues to claim that international mariners should only use routes the IRGC prefers. Fact, the Strait of Hormuz is an international waterway. The IRGC has no authority to dictate routes for free and open traffic flow. Commercial vessels continue to use the strait with U.S. military support. Since early May, CENTCOM forces have helped approximately, see, we're helping there, have helped approximately 1,000 vessels and 500 million barrels of crude oil pass through the narrow waterway. There you go. U.S. Central Command works for Rockefeller oil oligarchs, as war's a racket, obviously. U.S. Central Command put out this post. They say CENTCOM forces continue to strictly enforce the U.S. blockade against Iran. As of earlier today, CENTCOM has redirected 20 commercial vessels, disabled 2, and boarded 2. They put out this nice little meme infographic. That's very nice of them right there. So there is all of our assets. We have a whole lot of big guns there, as you can see. Overview: no ships allowed in or out of Iranian ports. Blockade is being enforced partially against vessels of all nations. Freedom of navigation remains for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, except for ships entering or exiting Iranian ports. And so again, America's right here with big guns. Iran's right here with big guns. Have fun driving through that rough neighborhood with guns pointed at your face by both sides. They keep telling them, I don't know why these soldiers won't listen. We've covered, IDF kept telling them, IDF soldiers, stop posting your war crimes, stop posting your murders on the internet, because all that gets gathered up, and then we see ICC indictments using your own social media posts of you murdering people. So just stop it. They refuse to. They keep posting. Now we're seeing the same requests coming out of U.S. Central Command. Will U.S. troops have the sense to stop posting on social media? Probably not. Turns out the majority of these soldiers not too bright. Reuters reports U.S. Central Command Commander Admiral Brad Cooper has warned U.S. troops that cell phone videos and social media posts are giving Iran real-time battle damage assessments, potentially helping it plan follow-up strikes against American forces. According to Reuters, some troops in Jordan have been told their phones could soon be confiscated as the military considers tighter operational security measures following recent attacks. Why are our troops even there? The idiots are posting, hey, Iran, I'm right here. Come freaking whack me. I mean, it's beyond stupid. So again, they're using these troops as cannon fodder, essentially here now. Cooper wrote that the footage posted by service members can reveal whether Iranian missiles hit their targets, warning that publicly shared images and reporting can provide Tehran with intelligence free of charge. IDF won't stop posting their war crimes. Here's another one. Two Aardvark land female soldiers photographed themselves posing beside a young blindfolded Palestinian detainee who appears to be a minor and proudly posted the image on Instagram. There's the image. The post, which circulated widely online and was reviewed by Dropsite News, was uploaded by Aardvark land soldier Nikola Masovsky. Sounds they're right out of Eastern Europe. They're the real antiseptics torturing a septic. You see there? I mean, it's pretty clear in this picture. In our satanic inversion of reality, that's where we're at here now. As part of 20 photo carousel containing additional images of her in Gaza, has since been made private after the photo drew public backlash. That's funny, torturing that Palestinian kid. It's a riot. Here's Trump on Iran earlier today.
In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement to some.
So, I don't know. We could be bombing Iran right now as the show's live. There you go. Continuing here, CSIS estimates that U.S. has burned through so much of its air defense stockpile in the Iran war that Patriot inventories are now under 1,000 interceptors, and THAAD interceptor systems are down to about 250. Pre-war baselines were roughly 2,330 Patriots and 360 THAADs, meaning more than half of each has been used up. On top of that, more than 1,000 Tomahawks and 1,100 JASSMs have been fired, along with heavy drawdowns of SM-3s, SM-6s, and PRSM missiles. Rebuild timelines are brutal. Tomahawk, THAAD, and Patriot need 3 years to return to pre-war levels, with major for year 2027 Patriot buys not delivering until May 2029. It leaves a multi-year vulnerability window for any Western Pacific fight with China, i.e. the invasion of Taiwan. It also constrains transfers to Ukraine and Gulf allies. We're running out of ammo here, bro, according to these reports. Here's a little graph. And if these reports are accurate, Russia and China know damn well they're tracking it as well and planning their moves based on, hey, U.S. is over there shooting their wad at Iran, using up all of their ammo. Maybe we can make a move here now without much pushback from America because they're out of bullets. That's a very real possibility out there now. Newly obtained defense or War Department. I don't know why they keep a lot of these reports. Get it straight out there. It's the Department of War. Newly obtained War Department records show U.S. forces suffered at least, we covered this, but it's worth covering again. Shows what liars they are. U.S. forces suffered at least 400 injuries, or they call them casualties. I don't know about this, the language they use, but anyway, 400 injuries, over 400 injuries, and 17 life-threatening injuries during the first phase of the Iran war. The Army took the brunt of it with more than 270 injuries, including 64 officers, 2 generals, and about a third from the reserves. head trauma emerged as by far the most common injury, affecting at least 170 troops. On March 1st, an Iranian drone struck an operational center at Port Shuaibah, Kuwait, killed 6 U.S. service members in the war's deadliest attack. The 2 wounded generals, Brigadier General Clint Barnes and Major General Brad Hinson, have since been criticized for ignoring intelligence warnings. 2 large casualty days on February 29th and March 3rd, 70, or excuse me, on February 29th, 3, on March 3rd, 70, and March 18th were never publicly disclosed by CENTCOM, which continues to release only monthly totals. After Trump ended the truce on July 8th, more than 200 additional injuries and 4 more deaths have already been reported officially here now. They're lying to us about how bad it is, and I believe it's worse than that. Here's that chart right here. You can see. On to public health, Fauci. Yeah, they're not going to do anything with Fauci. It's all for show. It's all Masonic political theater. If we had a real country, then all of those vested with authority by the state that have a badge and a gun, they'd go do something none of them do. So we have a fake country here, a bunch of cowards, honestly. At this point, what do you even say? But a bunch of cowards, the order followers out there with the quote authority of the state. Trump said in a True Social post, many more people died of the bat bites under the Biden administration than under the Trump administration. Same old, it's the same routine. It's the same program. They put a different mask on the puppet saying they're the chief executive president of America. Biden, Trump, same dude, different mask, a little bit different rhetoric, same program. Trump said Operation Warp Speed was a spectacular success. In fact, many say one of the most successful things ever done by an American president. I overrode Fauci on this. His ideas were crazy. Also, I said from the beginning that the bats came from the Wuhan laboratory in China. Fauci strongly disagreed, always trying to protect China. I inherited Fauci, who was there since the 1980s, but with each passing day, relied less and less on him. He made too many bad calls, like on masks. Remember, at the beginning, he was an anti-masker. He then switched to a super masker. In any event, I didn't let him shut the country down, although he wanted to. I went the Federalist way and let the governors decide. The Republican governors did a much better job than the Democrats. Fauci was largely taken out of play. And then along came Sleepy Joe Biden, who made Fauci a king. I called Biden to tell him Fauci was no good, either didn't have a clue or was dishonest. The call was well received, but sadly not acted upon. Biden went on to give Fauci vast destructive power. The rest is history. Trump's trying to rewrite the history there. Here's a short clip. Fauci took the Fifth Amendment over 100 times.
During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your question.
Oh my gosh. American Red Cross declares second ever national blood supply crisis, urges immediate blood donations as summer stocks reportedly hit a 4-year low. I don't know, just saying out there, if you don't have the miracle blood, then maybe your blood's worth a little bit more. Just saying. I would charge a premium if I was a blood donor. I'm going to not be part of anything they got, this whole Rockefeller medicine system. Sorry, that's my choice. I don't want anything they're selling. Here's Trump on the whole debacle, why he can't or he's not going to actually do anything to Fauci, because it's all, again, a Masonic stage play. But hell, you live through the bad times, right? Everybody knows, but yet we got to play this out.
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the autopen, because the most powerful thing the president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden, and I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful.
Trump has promised to pardon his entire administration, from the maids to the freaking janitors to the whatever, everybody. So he basically gave him a free pass. Just go hog wild on crimes. I'll give you a pardon. And that's why he can't take action here, because the government is an organized crime syndicate.
They say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now, whether or not I sign my things directly, almost everything I sign directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon, but I'm not sure that he signed. He probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things, that the person operating the autopen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about, because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the autopen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
Here's Bobby Kennedy Jr., sold out Maha. Put out this meme on his official Secretary of Health and Human Services account. Yeah. Not going to do jack. HHS says, ladies and gentlemen, the Beagles have landed. Beagles rescued from a research lab pipeline get second chance in loving homes. Department of Education says never forget what they did to your kids. Online school put U.S. kids behind. Some adults have regrets. Fauci backs bat miracle mandate for U.S. school children. Fauci says teachers should be required to be miracled up. Fauci miracles for kids have as young as first graders could be authorized by September. Fauci warns U.S. must not be cavalier in assuming children immune to bats. %80 of toddler food sold in the United States are ultra processed, according to a new report out of CNN. Food for children between the ages of 6 and 36 months should have no added sugars, artificial sweeteners, concentrated fruit juices, and limited saturated fats, per the World Health Organization. Out of more than 2,700 items analyzed, including products marketed as, quote, organic, almost half failed to meet a single nutritional benchmark set for children. That's on the parents, though. I mean, come on. Grow a brain out there, people. You know what I mean? There is a thing as a personal responsibility. So the institutions have failed us. You're on your own, bro. So I would seriously take some personal responsibility about all this. On to technocracy news. Upcoming 6G mobile communication standard will not only transmit data, but also functions like a radar. He und 6G can see through walls and measure heartbeat. The new 6G mobile communication standard is supposed to be able to detect people through walls and even measure heart rate and breathing. Data protection advocates are raising the alarm. What sounds like science fiction will soon become reality. The upcoming 6G mobile communication standard will not only transmit data, but also function like a radar with the technology called ISAC, integrated sensing and communication. Antennas will be able to detect distances, speeds, and movement patterns. So that's some exciting scientific dictatorship news. This story's got me all riled up about that. I don't know if you guys seen this one. AI companies are buying up rare books and hoarding the data in these rare books and then destroying the books. These AI companies are pure evil. AI companies are purchasing large quantities of used and rare books, scanning the contents to train their AI models, then turning the originals into pulp. The sum of human thought digitized and shredded. Every book that gets scanned disappears from the physical world permanently. The knowledge survives only as training data inside a system no one can hold, browse, or resell. What used to sit on a shelf for centuries now exists as weights in a model that might get depreciated next quarter. Yeah, just cut the binding off and scan all the pages into their AI systems. So there you go. Reading a book is now a conspiracy theory. AI companies are bulk buying rare books, scanning them through high-speed machines that cut the spines off and shred the originals. A service called ISBN DB facilitates orders of up to 1 million books and keeps buyers anonymous. Pre-2022 books are premium because they're free of AI-generated text. A federal judge ruled the practice is fair use because eliminating the original means only one copy exists at a time. Anthropic hired the former head of Google Books partnership to obtain all the books in the world. Man. Was it Fahrenheit 451? We're living it right here. We are living it now. Residents furious at plan to seize and destroy their homes for AI data centers. I don't know. Why would you be mad about it? Are you a terrorist? Report out of Futurism here. They say, as dozens of cities across the U.S. are forced to scrap their plans to build power-hungry data centers, some civil leaders are no longer asking. According to new reporting by Fortune magazine, the state of Georgia's for-profit utility company, Georgia Power, is looking to demolish and pave over some 30 homes and 330 parcels of land. We had to have our 33 columns in there, right? That currently block the route of over 1,000-mile transmission line. When it goes live, the line will distribute nearly 10,000 megawatts of energy from a newly constructed power plant, approximately 80% of which is expected to power data centers, according to a fact sheet provided by the Georgia Public Service Commission. The rest will presumably be split between local businesses, homes, and other consumers. Hey, you don't need a house. We have data centers to build and that infrastructure. Who cares about if you have a house? Wall Street Journal reports here now a backlash against Anthropic is brewing in Silicon Valley. The AI pioneer faces growing distrust from startup founders and researchers over competitive tactics, guardrails, and lack of support for open weight models. They're thieves. They're a pack of thieves is what they are, saying they're the smartest guys in the room. But no, you're a pack of thieves and con artists and liars. Mark Zuckerberg blasts centralization of AI power, according to the failing New York Times. In an interview with the Times, Meta's chief executive took aim at Anthropic and OpenAI, which have pushed to tightly control AI development, and said he supports more openness. He's stealing all your data on Facebook too. So what's the difference? I guess they haven't got to stealing all the world's knowledge through hoarding rare books and then destroying them. Mark Zuckerberg came out swinging against Anthropic and OpenAI, two of the world's most valuable artificial intelligence startups, saying the way they developed AI software could lead to a centralization of power that would narrow people's access to the transformational technology. Yeah, it's his competition. He'll do the same damn thing. Here's a creepy one now. California startup builds a 7-foot-tall, diabolical-looking robot centaur with a goat's head, and yes, it can carry a chainsaw. Stairis says the teleoperated 3 halves is designed for wildfires, landslides, mines, and other jobs too dangerous for humans. The company has even published a doomsday protocol explaining where to shoot or stab it to make it go limp if the machines ever rise up against us. And here is the machine. And they had to put the GoToMindy's Baphomet head on there, right? Obviously, we wouldn't have it any other way. But they did release ways to bring down this Centaur Terminator type robot. So they do care about public safety in that way. All right, let's where are we at here? Yeah, let's do a Jared Leto report before the break. Jared Leto, Hollywood actor. Jared Leto accused of criminal sexual conduct by 4 women in BBC documentary. Jared Leto, Hollywood's Dark Secret review. The tales of abuse are utterly disturbing. Jared Leto accused of approaching and texting underage girls nearly 2 decades before sexual assault allegations. And so BBC put out a documentary, Jared Leto, Hollywood's Dark Secret, and related coverage. A new BBC documentary features allegations from 10 women against the actor and 30 Seconds to Mars frontman Jared Leto. I guess that's his rock band. 9 of them are speaking publicly for the first time. 4 women specifically accuse him of criminal sexual conduct when they were teenagers, ages 16 to 19, with incidents said to have occurred between roughly 2002 and 2016 when Leto was in his 30s and 40s. The 4 core criminal conduct claims include sexual assault in a motel bathroom against a 17-year-old in 2002, sex in California when the woman was 17, statutory rape under California law where the age of consent is 18. Leto allegedly shrugged off discussions about age of consent, a threat of sexual assault in a hotel room to a victim aged 19, repeated sexually explicit phone calls starting at age 16, including a suggestion of sex plus an attempt to have the woman sign an NDA, which she refused. The BBC says it saw the document. Didn't Jared Leto, I want to say he bought that same complex there in Southern California in Laurel Canyon where they were running all of those ops out of that. What the heck's the guy's name? Dead now, great researcher. Now I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. It's been reported though. I want to say that it was some type of intelligence outfit, and Jared Leto bought the complex. They have like a full film studio there. All kind of the heck's the guy's name? Dave McGowan, right? That wrote the book. He wrote a couple books. That one about secrets in Laurel Canyon. I believe the main where they're running a lot of those ops out of in the 60s. I believe Jared Leto bought that property, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but it's like I didn't research it here for this report, but that just triggered that in the back of my mind. Okay, so here's a little clip about it from the BBC.
Sat there and saying, okay, well, my phone is dying, so I can't really get home from here. So I asked him if he has a phone charger. No, I don't. Okay, I also don't have any cash left. Could I get some cash to get a cab home? No, I don't have any cash. I was sat on a chaise longue kind of thing. So I was kind of like thinking to myself, could I just sleep here? And then he just goes, if you're going to sleep here, you're going to wake up with a dick in you.
Wow. And so that documentary is out there now by the BBC. What is it called again? It's called Jared Leto, Hollywood's Dark Secret. Available on BBC iPlayer and on YouTube. Maybe we'll take a look at that, or I will, see if there's anything worth reporting out of that. All right. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. We just went through an hour of hardcore news. I think we covered quite a bit in the first hour. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that's free. Could use some dollars over here as we are in very hard economic times on Main Street. Check out weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. We have the holograph stickers there, the white background stickers, and the clear Weaponized News stickers, all available. weaponizednews.com/shop. We have baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses. Again, as this show is known to induce heavy bouts of drinking, according to some in the audience. Bunch of gear over there, weaponizednews.com/shop. Links in the description below this video. Become a patron of our store. Feedback I'm getting is very good. Very good. Patrons are enjoying the Weaponized News gear over there. You can support us through donations if you like as well. We've had some donations over the years. Appreciate that very much. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links, all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack channel. Nothing behind the paywall. Everything's free. Always will be here at Weaponized News. Show your support for independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week. Broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Weaponized News Substack channel. We're streaming live there now. You'll get the full show. You can go view it live on Substack. You'll get the full show, summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Any which way you choose to support us is truly appreciated. weaponizednews.com/shop. Weaponized News Substack. Become an unpaid subscriber. If you got any extra cash laying around, you find value in this broadcast, become a paid subscriber. Working my butt off over here 5 days a week, or actually 7 days a week, because I'm also working a lot about different projects on the weekend. Anyway, working my butt off over here for you, bringing you a nonpartisan news broadcast, confusing many out there that are new to the show. They can't believe somebody is not just hard Democrat, hard Republican, or hard MAGA, whatever. It's nonsense, all right? We're shooting you straight here at Weaponized News the best that we can. Not working for anybody but the audience out there. F the entire government. F all the clownfluencers that are basically feds. They're all going to drive you into a ditch here now. We're trying to provide you accurate, informative, and timely information that you can use in your real life to go about making decisions here now. And research everything. Like I always say, do your own research. If I give you something don't sound right, go dig into it. Prove me wrong. I appreciate that as well. Anyhow, any which way you choose to support our efforts here at Weaponized News is truly appreciated. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that is free of charge for you. All right, welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Wednesday, July 29th, 2026 edition. We just covered day 151 of the Iran war. China and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have now gotten involved. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia directly bombing now with America, Iranian paramilitary militia proxy groups in Iraq. China is going to sell a bunch of these shoulder missile systems where a soldier can run around and use it as air defense. We reported on that out of Reuters. So, and they had promised, we're told, that they were not going to enter the war. Now it's very public. They're providing weapons for Iran via China. All right. We caught up there. On to Epstein reporting here now. Kathy Rumler said Epstein accusers' assertions lack inherent credibility under questioning about her own ties. A complete psychopath, right? Former Obama top attorney, this woman, complete psychopath. In the Epstein emails, it's just like I picture her as she's like some type of sadomasochist type of person, like with the black leather whips and chains and all that. They love being trampled on, and love being trampled up. They love trampling on and love being trampled upon via 1984 to speak to the mindset of the psychopaths. Kathy Rumler, the former Obama White House counsel, told a House panel that she believed the descriptions of abuse by Epstein's most prominent victim, Virginia Giuffre, lacked inherent credibility as she was grilled by investigators about her own ties to Epstein, the transcripts show. Yeah, remember, she's a high-up lawyer, liar, right? Senate approves resolution opposing Ghislaine Maxwell pardon amid Epstein investigation. The Senate unanimously passed a resolution opposing a presidential pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell earlier today, putting itself on record against Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend. Maxwell was, we already know the background there. Yeah, so the Senate's kind of trying to wash their hands of this, obviously. But I don't think that overrides Trump's presidential pardon, and that's still floating out there. Trump may go ahead and give her a pardon. Let's see here now. Amid budding interest in Maxwell, the Senate this week voted in favor of Senator Jackie Rosen's resolution. She's a Democrat out of Nevada, which stated that Trump should not grant a pardon, commutation, or any other form of executive clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell. The Senate stands with the victims of sexual exploitation and trafficking and affirms its commitment to justice, accountability, and the protection of children. It reads, referring to concerns that Epstein and Maxwell recruited girls as young as 14 for sexual and suggestive activities. We went through it. They're eating babies, bro. Come on. They're eating babies. Let's get down to the jerky and goat cheese of it. They're literally eating babies' intestines. It's covered in great detail. I've covered it with Drew TV, with William Ramsey's Investigates. And so it's all there. Give me a break. 14 years old. That's young enough and bad enough. They're literally eating the baby's intestines. Come on. So whoop-de-doo. They wrote a strongly worded letter, essentially. It's still out there. Trump may pardon Maxwell. Investigation revealed devastating reports of sexual misconduct at school supported by Epstein. AP reports here now. 2 people who attended a prestigious Michigan fine arts school reported conduct of a sexual nature by Jeffrey Epstein, a major donor, according to an investigation that also uncovered dozens of allegations spanning decades against nearly 50 other people. Lockton Center for Arts operates a summer camp and performing arts school that draws students from around the world. It hired a law firm in 2024 to investigate reports of sexual abuse by faculty and staff. Subsequently, it extended the work to include information about Epstein, the 66-year-old financier who killed himself in jail in 2019. I'm reading right from the AP official account. Enter Lockton removed Epstein's name from the lodge after he was convicted of sex offenses in Florida in 2008. The building, renamed the Green Lake Lodge, was recently demolished after the U.S. Department of Justice released millions of pages about him that have been compiled over the years. Yeah, the Epstein files. SAG-HAVI Law Office says it collected 70 accounts from alumni alleging physical conduct of a sexual nature by 47 facility and staff members affiliated with Enter Lockton from the 1950s through the 2010s, most before 2000. The information gathered during the investigation is simply devastating. The 97-page report says, noting that alumni reported grooming, flirting, sexual touching, and sex. We might have to circle back and take a look at that report. Let's see here. Enter Lockton said it has provided names of people accused of misconduct to Grand Traverse County authorities in northern Michigan to determine what steps, if any, might be taken. None are currently employed there, and more than a third are dead. We are deeply sorry for the harm experienced by members of our community and extended our apology to those impacted by abuse. Well, we know what the answer is, right? We know what the answer is. We may have to circle back tomorrow and take a look at this 97-page report, but that's what we got for right now. All right. Epstein victims claim Todd Blanche told them to get to the point. Report out of UK Independent. Survivors of Epstein's sexual abuse have claimed that Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is nominated to permanently be the head of the Department of Justice, told them to get to the point during a face-to-face meeting earlier this month. See, showing compassion for the victims. We like to see that out of our attorney generals. 23 Republican attorney generals are backing Todd Blanche for attorney general. So there you go. The government's an organized crime syndicate. And the criminals back up the criminals. 23 attorneys general urge Senate to swiftly confirm Todd Blanche, Trump's personal attorney and cover-up artist of the Epstein files, dox the victims. Who else would you want as attorney general?
We have some big news right now, Epstein news. We're on Capitol Hill right now. I'm with over 10 survivors, and they're delivering the Epstein files to Republican and Democratic senators who are voting on Todd Blanche's confirmation tomorrow. Republicans don't want to read these files, and well, they're going door to door to Republican offices, handing them the files to read. Let me show you. Right now, they're at Senator Britt's office. I'm going to show you inside, even though they get mad at me for filming. Todd Blanche's confirmation is tomorrow, and the survivors are literally putting the files in front of the Republicans who refuse to read them. Specifically, the Republican senators on the Judiciary Committee. We have Katie Britt right in front of me. We just went to Mike Lee's office, Josh Hawley's office, John Kennedy's office, and more. And the goal is simple. They want to get these senators to vote no. Well, this is a story that's not going away. Even if Todd Blanche is confirmed, these survivors are not going to let it go away. So spread the word, and I'll have more updates for you soon. As always, follow along for all.
Who's that dude? That's Aaron Parnas. reporting there from the corrupt Congress. We'll keep following that story for you. All right, on to economic reporting now. 69% of Americans have said rising costs have put retirement out of reach for their generation, according to CNBC. But it's the golden age of Trump economy. Yeah. I found this one funny. Arizona State launches bachelor's degree in content creation for aspiring influencers. Arizona State has introduced a bachelor's of arts in content creation. Wow. Now you need a college degree to get on camera and talk? Well, they do apparently at Arizona State University. Through its Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, designed to prepare students for careers as influencers, content creators, and digital storytellers. What a freaking joke. What a freaking joke. But it's a real thing. I saw some posts about it. I was like, really? And I looked it up. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. You now need a Bachelor of Arts degree to get on camera and talk, apparently. Stock market took a beating today. Dow drops 1,100 points for worst day since April 2025 on fear the Fed is falling behind on inflation, you think? Let me take a look at this. Maybe if they had Bondi screaming that the Dow's above 50,000, then that would make all the Epstein go away and the stock market would rise, right? Where are we at here now? Yeah, still well above 50,000. They could go arrest Epstein co-conspirators at any time. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed today at what, 51,599? Plenty of room there to go arrest Epstein co-conspirators, DOJ. They won't. Arrest Fauci. Do something. They won't. You know what I mean? More than 360,000 margin calls were forced into liquidation in Korea, according to Citibank. 62% of those wiped out were reportedly under the age of 35. We may see an increase in youth suicide there in South Korea. Just saying, they wiped out a bunch of these traders earlier today. Korean retail investors have now lost an estimated $38.7 billion on leveraged products, according to Citibank. That's horrific. 30-year Treasury yield hits highest level since 2007 after Fed keeps rates unchanged. Oh, and what happened right after that? Oh, the financial collapse, right? So yeah, we, America, not us, the private central bankers now struggling to sell their debt. So they have to increase the interest rate there. Here's a crazy chart out of the Kobasi letter. This is crazy action today on the S&P 500. Look at this. This is freaking crazy, right? All today, down 770 billion, up $1 trillion, down 1.1 trillion. That's freaking insane. You know, insiders are playing the whole thing there, but a lot of money made and lost today in the stock markets. Republicans start pondering another debt limit hike as midterms lose. 40 trillion in debt seems to me should get our attention, said Senate Majority Leader John Thune. You think, bro? Who cares? Just laugh at everybody, call them terrorists. You know what I mean? That's been working so far. The other Kushner presiding over FIFA sellout, billionaire brother of Trump's son-in-law, to lead talks on privatizing stakes in soccer's biggest tournament. And so here's the younger Kushner, another con artist, scammer, criminal. They're looking to rig up FIFA here now. Trump's tariffs are sending some companies back to China. For some U.S. brands seeking a location for their factories, the economic logic is once again pointing to China. Report out of the failing New York Times. Yeah, it's by design there, with Howard Lutnick running racketeering operations on the back of Trump's tariffs. Meta stock plunges 11% on disappointing guidance, dwindling free cash flow. But Mark Zuckerberg cares about keeping AI open. He told us, right? Very sad there for Meta shareholders. Divided Fed holds interest rates steady, but 3 members voted to hike. But Trump told us the reason he put in Kevin Warsh's and got rid of the last guy, Powell, was because he's going to lower interest rates. Remember all that shenanigans? Kevin Warsh is in the Epstein files. His father-in-law, Ron Lauder, the head of the Aardvark Council, he's all up in there as well. So as long as the Fed is tied to Epstein files, then we should have nothing to worry about in the economy, right? Sure. Donald Trump has earned more money in his first and second year in office in his second term as president than in his previous 60 years of business life, according to Bloomberg. Oh, but you hear the clownfluencer MAGA shill cult members saying, but he donates his presidential salary to charity. Yeah, because that's chump change compared to all this insider trading, market manipulation, government contracts, and the like. Donald Trump has earned more money in his first and second years of his second term than in his previous 60 years of doing business. I thought he's just a great businessman. The windfall is being driven by crypto ventures, international licensing deals, and Mar-a-Lago revenue tied directly to his return to the White House. This is out of Unusual Whales. They say Trump's personal collections at roughly $2.2 billion in the first year of his second term per U.S. Office of Government Ethics. Well, we know ethics is a conspiracy theory, so we should probably just discount this entire story. Continuing, separate accounting from NPR and New Yorker writer David Kirkpatrick estimates that Trump family has made close to $4 billion off his presidency in about a year, even using conservative math. Where the money came from. In 2024 alone, Trump collected about $760 million, with roughly $60 million from World Liberty Financial crypto token sales. We've covered that. He rugged all his MAGA sycophantic cult members there, and apparently they love the abuse. $60 million from international licensing and nearly $80 million from Mar-a-Lago. Without those politically driven windfalls, the 2024 haul would have been closer to $650 million. Crypto prices then ripped higher in 2025 as the administration signaled a friendlier regulatory posture, amplifying the token-related revenue streams. Yeah, Trump and Shadow President of America, Bibi Malay, are competing for most corrupt man in the world. The richest 34 Americans, now roughly $2.6 trillion in wealth, equal to a record 12% of U.S. national income. I think we reported on this before. What was it? Oh, I wanted to get to this. This was, I wanted to get to a little more detail about that. Wealth concentration in the United States just hit a record, according to a Financial Times chart built on data from economists Emmanuel Sienz and Gabrielle Zuckman. The top 0.00001%, 0.00001% of Americans, roughly 34 people, now control wealth equal to nearly 12% of total U.S. national income in a single year. Brent oil jumps back above $90 after Trump threatens to hit Iran hard. They're hitting our economy hard, is what they're doing here now. Oil and Strategic Petroleum Reserve draw update. Earlier today, U.S. commercial crude stocks fell 7.2 million barrels last week, ending July 24th to 404.5 million, their lowest since 2018, according to EIA data reported by the Financial Times. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve fell another 3.8 million barrels to 307.7 million against a maximum capacity of 714 million barrels. The planned 172 million barrel release, which began in March for about 415 million, is set to bottom the reserves near 243 million. Together, commercial and Strategic Petroleum Reserve crude drew down about 11 million barrels on the week, up sharply from a combined draw of roughly 3 million the week before, when commercial stocks had actually risen. The U.S. crude reserves are now at the lowest point since 1984, and Brent crude jumped more than 6% today to $83.50 per barrel there. So we do appreciate them using all of our strategic petroleum reserves in case we ever did get into the real world war with Russia and China. So we'll have nothing and be sitting ducks. And so we do appreciate those efforts out of the Trump administration and the War Department. Here's more nonsense from Trump. It says, does anybody have any idea how much money and prestige the United States Supreme Court has cost our nation with their negative rulings on birthright citizenship and tariffs? The answer, trillions and trillions of dollars. Well, it turns out that the tariffs were just a racketeering operation set up by Howard Lutnick, Cantor Fitzgerald, and the like. So there you go. Trump's he's a liar and a criminal. The most corrupt man in the world, beside Millet out of Aardvark land. Not to be confused with the Argentinian Millet. He's also competing for most corrupt man in the world, but he's down a few rungs on the ladder in that regard. I'm sure he's looking to steal and oppress the Argentinian people as much as he possibly can. And we look forward to that in the near future. Trump broke his promise to lower and eliminate the national debt. A top investor thinks he's the worst spending president in history. You don't say. Fortune magazine. For mainstream media, honestly, financial economic reporting, I got to say, Fortune magazine is telling a lot of hard truths recently. You know what I mean? So, U.S. national debt reached its highest level of $39.5 trillion in June, a 37% increase from its pre-bat time levels. And one top venture capitalist is putting the blame squarely on the shoulders of President Trump. Shocking, I know, to actually say the buck stops with this asshole orange man, because it does. even though he's a puppet of the central bank cartel. Somebody has to take responsibility here. And Trump's the one with the big mouth and the big bully pulpit here, that his words move the market. So he needs to take responsibility for his actions. In total, the government now owes the equivalent of $113,000 per person here in America, according to USA Facts, a nonprofit civil initiative co-founded by former co-founder of Microsoft, CEO Steve Ballmer, that aggregates and analyzes government data. These eye-popping numbers are a problem for tech entrepreneur and all-in podcast co-host Jason Calacanis, who called out President Trump for contributing to the problem in a recent post on X. Well, isn't that bold and brave of him? On to AAA national average for the cost of a gallon of gasoline. Down a little bit. No, not really. Down a penny from yesterday, let's just say. $4.09, you can see right there, and it was $4.10 yesterday. So down a penny. We're hashtag winning in the golden age. And then Brown University, Iran energy cost tracker here now. Total consumer burden since the beginning of the Iran war, February 28, 2026, here in America is now $75.8 billion. And the household cost burden spread across both gasoline and diesel is now up to $578.85. You can see right there. The U.S. sanctions two Iranian companies accused of forcing ships to pay for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Washington called the fees extortion and also targeted 8 firms linked to Iran's shadow oil fleet, aiming to weaken Tehran's control over the strategic waterway as U.S.-Iran tensions escalate, according to a report out of Bloomberg. Houthis prepare to impose fees for Red Sea transit. Yemen Houthi rebels are developing plans to impose transit fees on commercial vessels navigating the strategic Bab el-Mandeb Strait, formulated alongside Iranian advisors. Iran's like, hey, you need to get in on some of this action over there, Houthis, as well. We're pointing guns at everybody's face and saying, do what we say when you pass by here, or we shoot you in the face. And so you should jump in on this action as well. And apparently they are. Let's take a look at the map here now, so we can give everybody an idea about these long, far-off areas we're talking about, where 20 to 25% of the world's petroleum products flow through, and many other agricultural, high-tech derivatives. The inputs into those supply chains, we've covered in great detail all the different inputs. Many flow through here and flow through here. Well, they used to. Now you got the Yemen Houthis standing there with a gun here, and you got U.S. and Iran standing here and here with guns. So have fun driving through this neighborhood where everybody has guns pointed at everybody, and missiles are flying all over the place as well. Again, it's engineered energy crisis, i.e. engineered world famine. Sweden launches its own MI6-style spy agency, according to a report out of The Economist. The service will be modeled on Britain's MI6 after officials concluded the existing intelligence system failed to anticipate Russia's 2022 military operation in Ukraine. The new agency is set to begin work January 2027. So what the world needed, another spy agency, this time out of Sweden. Boeing. Maybe Boeing are the same people in the room. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to blow up the world. I don't know. Boeing will not grant Ukraine a license to produce Patriot missiles, according to Die Welt, big German newspaper. The U.S. aerospace giant is not willing to transfer production rights for the critical seeker head, the main component preventing Ukraine from manufacturing Patriots domestically. Maybe they don't want Russia bombing Boeing factories. Just saying. Russia has said, you give them the long-range capabilities, we're going to take it as the same as you're shooting at us as your proxy Ukraine. Maybe Boeing are the adults in the room, as they say here now. Trump on Zelensky. Trump said, I would like him to end the war. It is very simple. I get along with both Putin and Zelensky. I told them, end the war. Well, we've been hearing that for a very long time. Trump campaigned on elect him, and he'll end the war with a phone call in 24 hours. Turns out that was total and complete bullshit. Laura Loomer, Sawface woman. She's over there in Ukraine. She flew to Ukraine to prove that there's no Nazi problem in Ukraine. But then she went on to visit the Azov battalion. I don't even want to get into it. They get all mad when you start saying, wait a minute, these guys are doing the freaking salute and all this. And yeah, it's just, come on, man. They got the black sun going on. Come on, man. Come on, man. So, and Russia always says that part of the special military operation in Ukraine is the denazification of Ukraine. Just saying. And they're not shy about it. And it was widely reported in the mainstream before the unprovoked invasion by Putin that indeed the Azov battalion and many others are neo-Nazis there running with their military, essentially, right? They're part of the Ukrainian military, these neo-Nazi groups, widely reported and acknowledged before, again, the unprovoked invasion, and then they try to flush it down the memory hole and act like none of this has ever even happened. It's horrific. We've been reporting Ukraine, NATO, America are targeting Russian wild berries, logistics, shipping hubs, which is essentially Russia, Amazon. They're targeting their petroleum manufacturing capability. And so they're trying to make life hard for Joe Blow, Russian, over there. It's some hopes that they can pressure the government to end this war. At least that's the thinking they say publicly about it. Yeah. Well, they're just making Joe Blow, Russian, suffer. Which, who suffers in all these wars? The Joe Blows of the nation. None of the elites suffer. They may get whacked here, there, now and again, but in large part, they're profiteering handsomely and living with that 0.00001% to go ahead and line up their own brethren for the slaughter. Tragically enough, we do need peace in Russia-Ukraine war before it escalates any further here now. It has escalated quite a bit over the last few weeks to a month, with Ukraine striking deep inside Russia and Russia countering them. And it's just escalation for escalation. And that's how these wars go now. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. Peace, bro. Peace. Here's a report from Rick Sanchez on Iran's new ballistic missile capability. We have reported on this before, but let's hear Rick Sanchez report on the THAAD and Patriot interceptor systems failures there in West Asia.
It's called something that's called terminal maneuverability. Terminal maneuverability, right? Which is, in fact, they call it the zigzag missile. The hell's a zigzag missile, right? It doesn't really zigzag. So what it is it's capable of somehow changing its direction and its descent angle during re-entry. So as it's fired from Iran, let's say it's going out here to Jordan. See that right there? It's leaving from Iran and it goes up, but then after the warhead is deployed, it can literally start flying on its own, come down, go back up, and then kind of find even its target. The warhead section separates, and then it generates, like they say, it's, according to my research on this, it can generate its own aerodynamic lift as it descends into a different atmosphere. It can move from side to side, they say. It can correct its course toward the target as it enters into the target area. It can steepen. It can flatten its final dive, they say. It can even correct its correction. According to some of the military analysts who've written material on this that I was going through this morning, trying to understand what makes this weapon, this missile, so different. I mean, it's what they've been using. This is what was reportedly was used to knock out the THAAD anti-missile system right there in Jordan that we reported to you last week when it happened, right? It was also used to take out the Patriot missile system, right? That was used in where's Kuwait? Right there, in Kuwait as well. And it was also used in Qatar.
Used all over the place. And so if what he's saying there is true, we need to withdraw our troops now. They're sitting ducks there. They're sitting ducks there, man. But isn't that what they're there to be used for, as cannon fodder to try to get the American people behind the war effort, when we should point the finger back at the Pentagon and say, hey, you're knowingly putting our troops in harm's way, using them as pawns in the game here, cannon fodder, to try to get backing for this war. It's criminal. It really is. IRGC says its Telegram channel, which received intelligence from people inside U.S.-aligned countries, including Jordan and Kuwait, was banned. Claims information helped target U.S. bases and assets across the region. Promises new platform coming soon for their spies there on the ground. Department of War meme of the day: achieving America's next manifest destiny, building an AI first war department. What a freaking nightmare. Is Skynet live? I don't know. Can it become self-aware? I don't know. But they're putting out these crazy memes out of the Department of War. AI first war department. They're still recruiting computer engineers out of the Department of War to help. You can do your part to help build out Skynet. Onto the quasi-secret war on drugs, which is very public, but I don't see many people reporting on it. U.S. out of El Salvador now, they say making waves once again for drug traffickers. U.S. collaboration with Salvadorian coastal police is the perfect storm. Their officers courageously board narco vessels and shut down maritime routes, setting the gold standard for the region. And here's their little El Salvador military man with a flat hat right there. Lazo Policia. Here's U.S. Southern Command. They say, ready for anything, U.S. Marines with littoral Combat Force 24 remain a versatile, synchronized, and lethal force in the Caribbean, providing the critical flexibility to transition rapidly from delivering humanitarian disaster relief in Venezuela to securing the Western Hemisphere against narco terrorists. See, they can go like that, right? In the snap of your fingers, they can go from delivering humanitarian disaster relief aid to Venezuelans to murdering fishermen. Like literally that. They're the good guys. We're the good guys. USA, USA. Here's a video from U.S. Southern Command, Operation Southern Sphere.
Late-breaking word of back-to-back major earthquakes jolting the Venezuelan capital of Caracas. The first one measuring 7.2, the second 7.5. There you go. They'll deliver disaster relief aid and also shoot fishermen in the face. And the DEA has come out and said that all these extrajudicial assassinations of the alleged narco drug traffickers hasn't reduced the supply of cocaine here into America one little bit. It's actually increased. And so all of their efforts there are in vain, but they do enjoy murdering people. So we got that. Anduril has produced its first YFQ-44A autonomous combat aircraft at its new Arsenal One factory in Ohio, just 4 months after production began. The drone is part of the U.S. Air Force's Collaborative Combat Air Force program and is designed to operate alongside crewed fighters. Here's an image of that new drone out of Anduril factory. Very exciting there to murder more people. A U.S. startup's $240,000 autonomous sea drone got close enough to film a Chinese type 052D destroyer in Philippine waters. The footage highlights how cheap unmanned vessels can surveil and potentially threaten much more expensive warships. Here's that video out of Reuters, short clip here. Changing nature of war show how a small drone can theoretically threaten a warship. Yeah, and we've learned also that Iran has a lot better accountants than the Pentagon, shooting off these $3 to $4 million Patriot missiles at $30,000 Shahed Iranian drones. So very cost effective using these unmanned systems against the older legacy systems here now, warships included, along with all these other missile
very expensive missile defense systems coming out of America, as we've seen and reported here now. We are indeed in a new age of warfare. Here's 10 years ago today. Today marks 10 years since self-imposed Syrian president Ahmed al-Shara, formerly known as Abdul Muhammad al-Jalani, then leader of Syria's al-Nusra Front, unveiled his face publicly for the first time to announce that the faction was officially severing ties with al-Qaeda and rebranding. Now he's the president of Syria and meets with all the world leaders. So this guy, hey, I at least give him credit for being able to rehab his image to being recognized on the world stage. And hey, I hope he does do right by the Syrian people. I have serious doubts, but I hope he does. I hope every world or every country's leader would do right by their own people, right? But as we have seen here, now they seem beholden to a higher power above national interest, i.e. private central banking cartel. We're killing Iraqis again, so that should make all the neocons very happy. Iraq's Islamic resistance said it will delay its retaliation for recent U.S. attacks until the Aberdeen pilgrimage to avoid disrupting security for millions of pilgrims. They got to march over there to Saudi Arabia and bow to the freaking square, right? And do their Saturn worship. Yeah. The group warned that strikes against U.S. forces are inevitable and said Saudi Arabia could also be targeted if necessary. Iraqi Prime Minister cancels Kingdom of Saudi Arabia visit as resistance factions vow revenge for U.S. Saudi airstrikes. The Iraqi resistance said an inevitable response is coming hours after U.S. Saudi attacks killed dozens of PMU fighters across the country. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zadi has canceled his trip to Saudi Arabia following the Gulf monarchy's brutal and deadly strikes on his country, carried out alongside America. Several news outlets have reported on the cancellation of the trip, although Baghdad and Riyadh have yet to make an official announcement on the matter. That guy's walking a very freaking tight line here, right? How do you... Well, that's what the challenge is. How do you serve your people, not get overthrown, and also serve American interests and aardvark interests, and Saudi interests for that matter? How do you serve all these different interests and your own people's interests? That's what they're up against there now in Iraq. According to reports citing Iran's Ham-Shire newspaper and other regional outlets, 4 Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard military advisors were killed in the overnight U.S.-Saudi joint strikes targeting Iraq. Separate reports from local officials cited by the Associated Press placed the figure of killed Iranian advisors even higher at 6. Well, we killed some Iraqis, we killed some Iranians. Aardvark Land declares no more withdrawal from Lebanon, will demand freedom of action in coming talks. Tel Aviv told mediators in the Lebanon Aardvark Land talks that it will not agree to any additional withdrawals in the next round of negotiations next week in Rome and will instead insist on freedom of action, Hebrew media reports. Earlier today, the report came after a suspected Hezbollah drone hit occupation forces in southern Lebanon for the first time since the so-called truce According to Aardvarkland Channel 12, Aardvarkland will insist on, quote, freedom of action to re-enter areas handed over to the Lebanese army in recent days. And they all said it too. I mean, give me a break. These ceasefire truces, it's bullshit. Katz, Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, Millet, they've all said it. Bro, we're taking this land, we're not leaving, and F you, basically. What are you going to do about it? But yet they continue to play these games like if the Lebanese government is even legitimate, it's a U.S. puppet. Oh yeah, we're having ceasefire talks. Everything's cool. As the controlled demolition campaign of southern Lebanon has continued unabated. Aardvarkland occupation forces conduct controlled demolitions in al-Masuri, southern Lebanon. Report out of the cradle. Here's some video. Ongoing attacks. They're in southern Lebanon. You can see right there. Here's some more. Targeting woodlands in Ali al-Tara Hill in southern Lebanon with incendiary munitions. Right, they're committing ecocide there as well, making the land uninhabitable. More giant bombings, the demolition campaign there. Intense aardvark explosions target the towns of Kafr, Tebnit, and Al-Taibeth in southern Lebanon. Quite an explosion there. The controlled demolition campaign ongoing in southern Lebanon. Aardvark forces target the southern Lebanese town of Halwa with massive bombing campaign, controlled demolitions. There you go. Turns out some aardvarks have a soul. 16 aardvark soldiers have died by suicide this year. A military mental health crisis deepens. 16 active duty aardvark soldiers have died by suicide since the start of 2026. Or maybe it was friendly fire. We don't know, but that's how it's being reported. I would like to think some of them have a soul and are not just, bloodthirsty, genocidal maniacs. I'd like to think some of them have a soul. This report goes on to say 16 active duty Aardvarkland soldiers have died by suicide since the start of 2026, according to Haaretz, after 2 female soldiers took their own lives in the past 2 days. One served in the Bar Dallas battalion along the Egyptian border. The other was an intelligence soldier at the Gilat base near Tel Aviv. Haaretz reported the intelligence soldier had sought an early discharge or reduced duties because of psychological distress, but her request was denied before her death. Military police have opened investigations into both cases. The figure continues a sharp rise linked to the psychological toll of the genocide Aardvark land forces have carried out in Gaza, the brutal war and ethnic cleansing campaign in Lebanon, and illegal occupation of the West Bank and Syria. Aardvarkland recorded 22 active duty suicides last year in 2025, the highest in 15 years. Aardvark soldiers have killed or wounded nearly 250,000 Palestinians in Gaza alone. Imagine that if one of them has a conscience. Imagine that. So they don't even care about their own soldiers, right? So Joe Blow, Aardvark soldier, they don't care about them no more than they care about the Palestinians. I mean, give me a break. Truly disgusting. Truly, truly tragic and disgusting. But those are the wages of war now, aren't they? And that's why everyone should be steadfast against war. We should be steadfast against war because that's the wages of it, is death, destruction, suicide, post-traumatic stress syndrome, crippled soldiers all over the place, genocides ongoing. It's literally hell on earth. So everyone with a conscience should be anti-war. You're like, Sam, but they're still whacking Palestinians. Oh yeah, they are. The genocide there continues in Gaza. Earlier today, Aardvark Land bombed a residential building in Al-Shati refugee camp west of Gaza City. Here's a video of that airstrike. So like, we leveled your house here, go over there and live in a tent at the refugee camp. And we'll bomb the hell out of you there too. They're literally bombing refugees in tents. According to Gaza's health ministry, 2 Palestinians were killed and 29 other Palestinians wounded in Aardvark Land attacks across the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours, including a newly killed and one who later succumbed to injuries. The ministry added that many victims remain trapped beneath the rubble and on the roads beyond the reach of ambulance or civil defense crews since the start of the so-called ceasefire on October 11, 2025. The ministry says 1,209 Palestinians have been killed, 3,943 wounded, and 803 bodies recovered from the rubble. And we know the bodies under the rubble are way, way higher. Statistics published by the Gaza Ministry of Health. Families wiped out from civil registry. Number of families wiped out from the civil registry, 2,276. Total number of individuals, 8,858. They're wiping out entire bloodlines. They're now of Palestinians. Families massacred with a sole survivor. Number of families, 2,348, with one left in that bloodline. Total number of individuals, 8,340. Families massacred and multiple survivors. Number of families, 4,903. Total number of individuals, 13,607. Total orphans, 60,737. Children who lost their fathers, 52,095. Children who lost their mothers, 5,929. Children who lost both parents, 2,713. Distribution of orphans by governate. I don't think we need to go through that, but you can see it's just horrific carnage, wiping out entire bloodlines of Palestinians, creating over 60,000 orphans there now. How else do you describe it but pure evil, man? Senator Chris Van Hollen has become the first Democrat senator to describe the surge in armed ultra-Zionist settler attacks on Palestinians as Aardvark terrorism. He made the remarks in a video released today. How long is this video? We'll play this. Let's see. It's only 2 minutes by Van Hollen here. We'll play you the Van Hollen X thought this video was too graphic for you to see and needed to be hidden. Well, I guess we won't show it. Yeah, we're not going to show that if he's saying this. Anyway, we'll link to it. Let me read. I'll give you the readout here. As we're towing the community guidelines to keep this broadcast going. All right. So understand and know that. And I'm sure our audience does. Okay. Back to some of the, let's sum it up for you here. This Senator Chris Van Hollen video says, recognizing the Palestinians have a right to armed resistance under international law, though he does not support it and argues it is not a useful strategy. Supporting Hamas rights to participate in free and fair elections, but not by any individuals who were involved in or took part in what he describes as terrorist attacks. Demanding the Aardvark land release Marwan Barghouti. Van Hollen said he met with Barghouti's wife and son during his last trip to Palestine and noted that many Palestinians regard him as the Palestinian Mandela. Supporting a full sovereign Palestinian state with its own military. He said this would be a phased process rather than immediate upon recognition, but argued that true sovereignty includes the ability to defend and secure one's own borders. Van Hollen said his political understanding of the issue was shaped as a student at Swarthmore College in the 1980s when he organized with the anti-apartheid movement to divest from apartheid South Africa. He said he has closely studied apartheid structures and Aardvark land Palestine ever since. He described ending the occupation as the central goal and said it should be the central objective of the U.S. government. Our central objective is merging with them. I don't know where Senator Van Hollen's been. And then finally, Lindsey Graham worked alongside Netanyahu to stall ICC arrest warrants. Yeah, because Lindsey Graham is a evil, warmongering demon creature. He's a monster. And he should be disrespected in his death and remembered as the monster that he is or was. The late U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham secretly collaborated with Milei Prime Minister, Shadow President of America, to leverage sexual misconduct allegations against the recently removed International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan in an effort to delay arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his former war minister, Gallant, according to a report out of the New York Times yesterday. And so there you go. There you go. What's the latest out of, are we bombing the, I guess we'll go to CENTCOM, but they kind of lag on the reporting. Let's see. Before we get out of here today, let's see if we've blown up Iran again and won the war one more time. U.S. Central Command. How many times can you win a war? Well, according to Trump, multiple times. Yep, there we go. During the broadcast, we're bombing Iran live right now. U.S. Central Command announced an hour ago, U.S. forces began launching strikes against Iran at 8 p.m. Eastern time today. The strikes are a powerful response to yesterday's attempted Iranian attacks on U.S. forces based in the Middle East. So there you go. We're bombing Iran live right now. Latest headlines out of Iran International. Yeah, we just covered that. U.S. launches strikes against Iran after attacks on American forces. Missile strikes hit areas in Khuzestan province. Iranian officials say Senate to vote on Iran war powers resolution tomorrow. U.S. strikes targeted locations in Abadan, Iranian officials say. 3 explosions heard in Qism Island. IRGC affiliated Tassim News reports. Maybe that's why they got banned off the X. Trump set to meet Saudi defense minister amid Iran escalation. That's all the headlines out of Iran International. Yeah, we're bombing them right now. We'll have more details about that tomorrow for you as they become available. Let's take a look here now. Al Jazeera, and we'll wrap up this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. Explosions hit southern Iran as U.S. launches strikes over attack on Jordan. Oil prices ease despite escalating tensions. U.S. strikes hit Iran. 2 hospitalized following U.S. strikes on Qasem. There's no indication yet what the targets are. So, yeah. Bombing them right now. Let's pray for peace, friends. It's not looking good. It's looking quite horrific, actually, here now. And get our troops out of there. Get our friggin' troops out of there already, man. They're sitting ducks. It's ridiculous. Shout out to Odysee channel. Shout out to Odysee channel. Thank you guys for tuning in over there. Chat. Shout out to John, Fat Bob. Otto Frank wrote it with a ballpoint pen. Now I missed the hell's that comment? That's weird. Well, John, your first comment there, it scrolled off my feed on the live chat. Apologies there. I don't have access to it anymore. I don't know what. Maybe you deleted it. I don't know. Anyway, it was sounding good for a minute until it scrolled off the feed. Jared Leto equals Jordan Cantalo. I was in love with him. Yikes. Pink Vegas says. Is it really the same guy? I don't know who Jordan Catalano. Is that the same guy? BBC should do a documentary on Gates. Nah, never. And yes, Sam McGowan. Yeah, McGowan. And who else? The other guy, the Canadian dude, Peter Nygaard. He's also big, all up in same type of deal, right? As Epstein. Sure, they're all part of the same cult. Leto is starring with Tim Cruise in the latest Mission Impossible as the good guy. Fat Bob says, is that true? Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Let's see here. Shout out to Huffman. Huffman says Virginia Guffey was a Dershowitz plant to discredit real witnesses. Huh. Well, there's a bunch of them, so it didn't work. Let's see. John says, Bob, he was referencing Dave McCowan, Carpenter researcher, author of Weird Scenes in the Canyon, and another book linking serial killers to Operation Phoenix in Vietnam. Indeed. Thank you. Yeah. To clarify on that. I was saying that the compound that the intelligence agency, the military had there in Laurel Canyon was, I believe, bought by Jared Leto, the same one they used to run operations there in Laurel Canyon. And I do believe that's what has gone down here now. Let's see. Huffman says let's see. First John says, I think there was a 3-day lull. Now Trump's ego is involved again. That news about the undetectable Iranian drone doesn't scare Trump because he hides in Florida. Huh. The Orange Aardvark said he would. Many more soldiers, sailors, airmen have to die for the vile. Yeah. Jeez, man. Huffman says the Larry Johnson ex-CIA guy got incredibly frustrated that other night when someone asked him what the Ukrainian soldiers were doing over there. Well, they're running freaking ops for freaking us is what they were doing there. They're running ops in Iraq for America is what they were doing there. I mean, obviously, right? They're collecting intelligence and running freaking operations there. I agree depopulation is clearly being engineered. Yeah. To pull off their takeover, Aardvarks put the actor wrestling MC in office to destroy America. Hey. They know what they're doing. It worked. It worked. In large part, it has worked thus far. So I would say they know what they're doing. Why so negative on National Socialism? If the Azov battalion are real Nazis, why haven't they killed the... Yeah, that's a good question. Why haven't they got Zelensky? Yeah, that I don't know. That's a good question. Why put on all the front? Why put? And we know the history in World War II that Ukrainians were allied with the Nazis against the Soviets. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Why put on all that front? And then why put on the front in 2019 that, oh, yeah, look, Ukraine, maybe there's something funky going on here. Why they got all these battalions of Nazis waving freaking black sun flags and all this? Why put it? I don't know. Maybe it's just a long-running psyop. It could very well be. It could very well be there, John. Why'd they put on that front? And then when Putin did the unprovoked invasion, deny all that. Literally, they were censoring, banning people for saying, look at your 2019 report where you highlighted all this. What's up with the Nazis in Ukraine? I don't know. Maybe it's all just part of a giant op. Very, very well, maybe. Let's see. AI wingman next. Fat Bob says, do priests have a duty to stop satanic practices within their community? Wait. I think in large part, they're the ones carrying out those satanic practices in their community. Fat Bob, you know? Some Fat Bob comments. You covered Alex Jones calling Trump impeachment and not a... Oh, man. All right, guys. Huffman says, probably another Project Alchemy for the region. All right, friends. Thank you for tuning in on the... And who is that guy, Pink Vegas? Is that the same guy, just different names? I'm going to have to look that up. All right, friends. Thank you for tuning in on the Odysee, on the X, Kick, Bitchute, Facebook, Substack, YouTube, and Rumble. Let me go over to the Rumble and YouTube chats and see how that went today. Shout out to Terry from the Philippines on the YouTube. Shout out to Silver on the YouTube or on the Rumble. Transhumanoid Rats. with human body parts grafted on them. America, you sick. Yeah. People have known for a long time, Arcane says on YouTube. Probably a laundry fire. That was because of the Patriot Act, Trump punching the air now. The leprechaun only focus on pocketing more and more money, right? Who's the leprechaun? Is that Fauci? Or just like leprechauns in general? U.S. politicians take bribes from Malay. Yeah, well, it's well documented, right? It's well documented the power of all these different lobbies, but the most concerning are ones from foreign governments that get us involved in wars. Those are extremely concerning. Lobbies controlling our democracy here now. Let's see. Bless me. This is not going to be good for America. You're telling me it's already horrific for America. Denver says GD Michael Bennett and GD clarinets. Oh my gosh. Peter says you look like a Disney villain. I look like a Disney villain? Really? I never heard that one before. Well, I could assure you I'm not a Disney villain, and I'm telling you right now, Disney is hardcore military grade propaganda for the children. Shout out to Zio on the Rumble there. Trump just said that Xi promised him China wouldn't send. No, he said that a few days ago. Then this big report out of Reuters came out. So, yeah, Bingo says Trump is the greatest president of all time. Yeah. And your icon is an owl. And you're probably a bot. I would most likely be willing to bet that are working for Brad Parscale outfit. Let's see. Arcane says the U.S. and Aardvarkland are losing their hold on Iraq. Well, looks like a civil war may kick off there in Iraq. You know what I mean? It really depends on what it looks like their dude Zaid is trying to do something to not have all out war in Iraq. He went to America. He's talking to his militias. You know what I mean? But they're saying they're trying to disarm, and so that may cause a civil war there. Yep, Trump's an Epsteiner. Randy said something to that regard. Trump is the worst president in the history. We've had both sides now on this broadcast. One in the chat says Trump's the best president ever, and then Randy says that Trump's the worst president ever. See, we're a diverse audience here. Appreciate you guys out there. Seriously. Obama. They're talking about bring back Obama. What, Mike Obama? One of the daughters? Or just have a CIA just march out a new Obama. There's a new unknown Obama that just came on the scene. AOC 2020. There you go. Keep that. She's a straight up actress. I remember when the Democrat Party put out a casting call. Actresses come audition for the role of Congress in this district. Just straight up actor. As is Trump, as is all the rest of them. Ma'am Danny, 2028. Yeah. We may get there. We may just get there, but be aware they're all actors. And this is WWE, KFAB, Masonic freaking stage plays. You better know and believe that. You murdered thousands of people, dude. I guess they're chatting among themselves. I've always been consistently pro-peace, anti-war. So you will never see me ever, because I've always been that way. With having disabled veterans in my family, I've seen it firsthand, the wages of war, and it's horrific. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Let's see here. TDS. Yeah, we have TDS here. Reporting on the news you don't like or you don't want to hear is TDS. OpenAI is hacking everyone. They're blaming it on Roguebot Cat on the YouTube. Yeah, may very well be. They're freaking thieves, right? Bardo on the Rumble. Yeah, Dave McGowan. That's the guy. Leto did buy it, Bardo said. Yes. Did you look it up, or did you just know that? You knew that from watching Weaponized News, because I remember the only way I know it is we reported on it, and I remembered that. And there's a bunch of other reports. He's doing all these sex cult, weird stuff, right? He's obviously he's some type of intelligence operative, and that's part of their deal is to run cults all over the place to have MK Ultra patsies all over the place, right? And so, yeah, Trump is an adulterer. Ethics is not a conspiracy. Steve, thank you for tuning in here, Steve. You got to get my sarcasm there a little bit. He says ethics is not a conspiracy. Come on, man. Having ethics in today's public health environment is a conspiracy theory. It is, honestly. They say they're talking about Masons here. Yeah, they probably all are part of Masons, but even way deeper secret societies than just that, right? To be in that elite of class, what was it? 0.0034 Americans hold 12% of the wealth, 0.00001%, something like that, right? From that report earlier. Let's see, industrial military complex. Yep. Child says they call for death to America every newscast and have killed our troops without the least consequences. It has to stop, and Trump has the balls to do something about it. Have you seen Fox News there, child of God? They're calling for war every friggin' 24/7. And they need to remove our troops out of harm's way. Shout out to Mac there. Disney was pretty close with Epstein. Yeah. Yep, they're doing rituals and sacrifices. Yeah, I agree. They are. I agree. Somebody in the chat has been drinking the Iran has been getting screwed by America in every way. The people have, but not the elites. I agree. Joe Blow, Iranian, has been getting screwed, but the elites sitting up here at the very top, they're all in the secret societies together all across all of these governments. We already have a global governance. They have summits called the Global Governance Summit. We saw during the bad times, all governments essentially in lockstep with their public health policy. That was evidence enough for me. And there's all this other evidence that, oh yeah, by the way, they're all in these secret societies throughout the world. And the only way you can even achieve any position of influence is to be part of that same secret society global structure. All right, friends, with that, thank you everybody for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. We'll be back here on Thursday for more Weaponized News. Let's pray for peace. Seriously, we're bombing Iran right now. It's quite horrific. Let's pray for peace and have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more.